There is jubilation in the camp of all Progressives Congress following the declaration of Gboyega Oyetola as the rightful winner of the July the 22nd, 2022 governorship election in Osun State. The Osun State Election Petition Tribunal annulled the result declared by the Electoral Commission, which gave victory to Ademola Adeleke of the People's Democratic Party. The tribunal directed INEC to withdraw the certificate of return issued to Mr. Adeleke and his deputy, Kola Adewusi. The panel, led by Justice Teste Kume, directed that the certificate of return should instead be issued to Mr. Oyetola. The tribunal held that the governorship election was characterized by overvoting, adding that after deducting the excessive votes, Oyetola's figures rose to 314,921, while Adeleke's came down to 290,266. We have in the studio veteran journalist and columnist Funmi Komolafe with me here. Welcome.
Good morning.
And also in the studio is the Executive Director, Journalist for Democratic Rights, Adewale Adeoye.
Good morning.
Now, what's your first reaction, Funmi, to this?
I never thought we'd get here. I thought that, I never knew that Governor Oyetola will appeal, but he has done so. And here
Why
we
did
are.
you think he would appeal?
No, I didn't think he will go
Challenge
to the
it.
tribunal.
Yeah.
I didn't think he will challenge the victory. But they had their reasons, and he has exercised his rights to go to the tribunal, and that's why we are here today.
Now, Adewale, you were here at that time when the results came, and we all accepted, as it were, the result. And from what has happened now, it seems that the story was different.
Yes.
How so?
Yes. Well, I think we based our judgment on precedent. Nigeria has been a country where during elections, you have overvoting, you have distortions of names of voters and all that. But now we're having bypass, which bimodal voters accreditation system.
Yeah.
So I think it is the oracle of democracy. And we are learning new things from this oracle. Because with this system, it's a bit more difficult to rig. It's more of a reflection of reality than what we are used to in the past. So I think this is a test of technology, and it has brought us to the level to appreciate that our opinions sometimes may be wrong, and we need to subject democracy to scientific evidence. So from what we have seen now, I think it appears that Oyetola actually won that election with a margin of not less than 100,000 votes. Because if you read both arguments, and the facts placed on the table, I think, there was overvoting in not less than 744 polling units. And this is not about human factor. It's about a scientific thing that is very difficult to dismiss, because the bypass will only count accredited voters, and then it can be transmitted to the INEC portal. So when APC decided to go and collect the information from bypass, it's a scientific document that was presented at the tribunal. And I don't think any judge will say that and then think otherwise. So what I'm saying, I think from the evidence before us now, I think Adeleke has a very difficult task ahead to prove that, he didn't rig that election.
For me, the thing confused a lot of people. People said, is this not the same technology that they relied on to make the announcement? Yeah?
First of all, let me say that after the election, it was all over the place that there was overvoting. We heard that up to 7 p.m. in a day, people were voting. But you see, it wouldn't hold water because it wasn't tendered as legal evidence. But now, it has been produced as evidence before the tribunal.
When you say overvoting, what does that mean?
Overvoting where the beavers people who voted
Came
were
back to
more
vote
than the
again.
number
Yeah.
that the beavers captured.
Yes, the registered voters.
And that's to tell us that no system is foolproof. Any system can be manipulated, even the beavers, as we have seen now. And I think we should, as a country, thank God that this has happened. Because we now know that some people voted not being captured. Okay?
I mean, people who were not registered.
People were people were not registered.
Yeah.
Because now beavers has to register you and then
Has
you
to
vote.
recognize you before it can count your
Exactly.
vote. But how did INEC get to a position where it said, these are the numbers, these are the right votes, and declared Oyetola, Adeleke, the winner?
INEC, this has displayed the incompetence of the system or some officials of INEC. From what we can see now, the beavers, we produced 3 reports of beavers before the judges. And I think that it is clear that INEC at some point told the truth and at some point decided to please one party. And that's why you have 3. How did they have 3 reports from one organization? And if it is beavers captured, why the variance? You understand?
Yeah.
Why is it different? If you produce 2 reports, even the 3rd one you produce should be consistent.
Yes.
We're talking of a computerized system now. The computer is said not to tell lies, but it can be manipulated.
Garbage in, garbage out.
People can manipulate it and it can produce any type of result. I think what has happened in Osun is a blessing to this nation. So that as we move towards the February election, INEC will put his house in order. If he wasn't ready, and there's no reason why he should not be ready to produce the beavers printout or whatever, he should have told the tribunal, we're not ready. And there's no reason why he should not be ready. The good thing in this thing is that INEC is bound to produce it for either parties or the parties that requested for it. We're talking of APC and PDP. There were other parties in Osun now.
Yes.
How are we even sure that Labour Party didn't get more votes than was recorded? How are we sure that
less votes.
Accord Party, or less? Or how are we sure that Accord Party didn't get more votes than was
Or less.
recorded? Or less. It could be more, it could be less. So only 2 parties we're looking at now. The election in Osun was not contended by 2 parties. There were more
Maybe
parties.
it's because the others knew that they never had any chance anyway.
Oh, well, but they didn't even test. Because they ought to have requested to even see whether it is true that these are the number of people that voted for us or not.
So this calls for vigilance. In spite of technology, it means that they still ought to be vigilant.
Yes, the advantage of beavers is that you can also upload it. You can have access to the portal and upload it. So I believe what the APC did was that they also set up their own technology to ensure that at the polling units, they were also getting the results. So you have the basis to challenge INEC if you think that there's, disparity. And it also shows that, just like she said, technology can be manipulated. Even the US election that brought in Trump, people said there were, even external influence was one of the major. So we need to be more vigilant. Political parties need to organize themselves and ensure that they are driven by technology in order to monitor and to ensure that the results that are coming out reflect, the reality. And
how will people know? Where do we get to a situation where we start questioning technology?
Yeah, it also shows that human beings are human beings. Even though beavers may not take bribe, but people can take bribe on behalf of beavers. So it shows that we need to be on guard. We need to ensure that we have data. Political parties must have a boardroom where they monitor every inch of the election. And as the presidential election is coming on, we don't need to go and sleep. We need to work harder to ensure that we monitor INEC. But it has shown clearly that even though we have a credible person as the INEC chairman, there are still some bad legs working in INEC. That means that we need to be on guard all the time to ensure that the the 2023 elections are not manipulated.
For me, it's very interesting because even as the result has been announced of the judgment, they have cancelled so many votes. Is it possible, even as we see it, because some people are wondering, all these hundreds of votes, hundreds of thousands of votes cancelled, could it be that there were some errors, that there are legitimate votes that have been wiped out because of this exercise?
Not likely. I think that the judges need to be commended. I think they were fair to both parties. They did justice. Somebody must be the winner, somebody must be the loser. I do not think that, because they dealt with overvoting, they didn't question
the conduct.
The conduct.
No violence.
There was no violence. I think they dealt with overvoting and they established it. Because if it wasn't established, I mean, we wouldn't have gotten to where we are now. Okay? So I do not think that any legitimate voter has had his or her vote, I mean, discarded as a result of the ruling or the judgment of the tribunal. I think that the judges were fair. In fact, they were too fair.
Now, there's a question of mobilization in this matter, because those votes that were cancelled were actually cast by human beings. What happened? Mobilization?
The machine identified fingerprints.
No, I mean how? How did it get to a situation where these hundreds of thousands of people voted?
That's corruption. You know, they just give people money, and of course, you need to be able to buy some officials in order to be able to do that. So it means that some people voted probably more than more than once, and it also means that probably there are some people that just got the paper and then started on printing. But what the machine will do is that automatically, you know, when it covers that kind of fraud, it will eliminate doubts and then ensure that those fingerprints that are repeated over time, you know, they are cancelled. So I think what happened is that in a particular area, like in Ede, where it comes from, maybe because of communal, overwhelming communal support, you know, they could be blind to transparency and say, look, it's our son, let's give him vote. And nobody, even you may even discover that the party agents of the opposing parties are also working for, for their own son. So, but the machine now has exposed, you know, the fraud in all this. And I think it's a very good thing. And you see, one thing is that if you look at the past, it's always very difficult to get this kind of justice at the lower court. Most of the time, you know, but when you read the judgments, I think it's so clear. So, and they are not even talking about the fake result that is submitted. They are hammering on overvoting, which I think is evident and driven. So I think the current governor has a very difficult.
You are not a lawyer, Fumi, but why did they not talk about the result? Because it's also part of the law. You cannot lie about.
That's why I said they were too fair. The judges were too nice. Because forgery is forgery. It's a crime. They could have said, go and try the man for forgery. They could have said so. And heavens would not have fallen. And you will not blame INEC for that one. Right? So I think the judges
INEC got to know how to investigate fraudulent what they call a certificate.
If we go to that one, it's a long way. If you say INEC ought to know, would you then say that, wouldn't you say the parties ought to know?
Yes, everybody ought to know.
Well, but
that's what cost the APC.
That's what I'm saying. So when people start talking of wishes of the people, if you want to win clear, win neat. What happened was that, like he said, party agents were compromised. Okay? And that's why overvoting was possible. But as to the judges, I think they were even too fair not to dwell on that forgery case. Because forgery is not about whether it is small or big. Forgery is forgery. But they decided to gloss over that because the Constitution did not say, present your credentials, serially from nursery to, he just said, present this. And since he has acquired one certificate, they decided to look the other way. But that does not remove the fact that there's a case of forgery was established. Even in the minority report, the judge established the case of forgery. And I think it is not fair.
In spite of that, why do you think the minority report still did not?
Well, the minority report disagreed on the issue of Beaver's certificate or whatever that was presented by INEC. But I think that this is how we got to where we are in this nation. Because it is somebody, then you overlook forgery. I mean, you can say that, oh, okay, maybe it has happened elsewhere, but did anybody go to court on it? But this one has been established. And that's why I think the judges were extra lenient.
It was,
and I think they were very, very fair.
Adeleke was really challenged at the level of PDP primaries. And some of these issues were raised. And what does it tell you about picking a candidate out of impunity?
I think it's all about internal democracy. You know, if there is internal democracy within the party, intra-party democracy, we will have less problems, you know, when it comes to the major election. I remember that those who contested against Adeleke raised a lot of issues about him. The certificate, you cannot have a certificate from a school in Osun State in 1981, when there was nothing like Osun State, you know. So these issues were raised, but because of the domineering impact of money, I think people stole their conscience. You know, they manipulated the process, and these are the consequences. So parties should learn to do things right at the different stages of the primaries, so that your candidate that is emerging, you know, will be a stainless steel that can compete, that can withstand the storm. You know, so if PDP had organized the primary in a way that a clearer candidate emerged, I think we would have probably had this kind of, because apart from the fact that, you know, he has been rubbished in terms of his credibility. You know, there is a cross that he needs to cover. Even if at the end of the day, he loses that primary, there is a cross on his head that the court of law, has
should go back to school.
Has questioned your credibility as a human being, and that will rub on you. And for generation, people will still continue to remember that he could have avoided this, by ensuring, because this is a man that you could say he came from a family with silver spoon. Yeah. So there was no reason why he should not have gone to his brothers, all of them. Well, so there must be something wrong. There must be something wrong why with so much opportunities, at your doorstep. Then you decided not to, even when children of hunters, children of cobblers are going to school. So what happened that at the end of the day, can you manage a state with that kind of...
When we were here the other day, we discussed Oyetola, and people were saying, well, Oyetola was outvoted because he did not connect with the people and all of that. Well, we know who did not connect with the people now.
Yeah.
They were thinking that he danced this way, as Adeleke danced his way into the people's hearts. Yeah. Now we discovered that it was dancing himself was until the real dance.
Yeah. Well, I think those who made that argument may not be absolutely wrong. Probably will have had more votes than what, is having now. Probably will have been able to beat Adeleke with about 200,000 votes. So not connecting with the people cannot be wished away. It does not mean that even when you don't connect with the people, you may still go ahead to win the election, but you probably could have won with a larger, margin.
Yeah, but what people said that he has performed roads, education, and so on, that he did a lot of work, that he was more interested in doing those, and apparently he had the numbers to cheer him on.
Yes, I think there is a perception that he just relaxed that, look, I've performed, then there is no point, even campaigning on a mass scale. And people felt that was not right, that in one way or the other would have affected, what kind of, the number of votes that he would have. And I think that is correct, because from what you have seen now, I think he did well, and people wanted him back. But governance is different from politics. Probably if he had played politics well, would not have had this kind of challenge that we're having now. Some people are even telling him not to appeal, you know. But I think
yes, many people were saying he should not appeal. Yeah.
Just accept it like that.
That should accept it because
yes.
they sort of believed that it was not popular enough to win.
Yeah. So he still needs to deal with public perception. You know, apart from the fact that he's doing well, he's doing roles, he's managing the economy very well. No, but he still needs to deal with public perception, and also to ensure that the internal contradiction within the APC is resolved. Don't forget that in Ekiti State, the margin that Oyibanye used to won, if you join the two parties together, they could not even, he will still defeat them. Yes. So we could have recorded the same thing in Osun State if some of these, variables, were eliminated, like the conflict in the party and also public perception. Build up your credibility. Let people know your achievements. It's not just when it's time for election and all that. Then you say, I've done well, I don't need to go and campaign. You need to go out, you need to blow your trumpet so that people will actually know what you are doing.
Are you saying that he dodged the bullet?
No, I think Oyetola focused on development for the good of the generality of the people. He didn't pay attention to stomach infrastructure. And that was his undoing. You understand? Yes, people love the good roads, but they also want the goodies. The stomach infrastructure aspect. They wanted it to be taken care of. And you're dealing with an accountant.
Yeah. So, accountant to look at the money.
Accountant looks at the
calculation. There must be equation.
They don't believe in wastage. Every penny must be accounted for, But I think now, and of course the contradiction within the APC, I think those who played the devil's advocate in APC should be licking their wounds somehow now. Although it's not
the
over.
Faction. The faction.
Yes.
That celebrated the so-called victory of Adeleke.
It's not just that they celebrated.
They were part of it.
They went to work. They were part of it.
Against...
They probably were part of the people responsible for this overvoting.
So you're talking of the Aregbesola faction and co.
Whatever name they call themselves. Whatever name they call themselves.
Yes.
That again, it is... Oyetola has to deal with that. But at the stage we are now, no fresh plea can be presented to the Court of Appeal. It is what is on ground that you take there.
It's the same case that was addressed at the Tribunal that will be taken
there. You can't make a fresh plea. So I think Adeleke's trouser or shorts should be loosening up instead of tightening now.
The dancing. What kind of dancing will Adeleke be dancing now? Is it?
Well,
there are different kinds of dancing.
Yes, I think people were talking about the judges making references to
Lolo,
Buga. But you see, philosophy is the father of arts. Law is an extension of philosophy. And when you are talking about philosophy, you are talking of art, you are talking of music, you are talking of culture.
Yes.
In fact, the greatest politicians in those days were poets,
yes.
Philosophers and all that. So I think what the judge did was to use the language of the common man, to bring law into the context of the most potent expression that is known, associated with Adeleke, dancing and all that, and that it should limit that because it could affect public order. So I think the judge it's semantics, and I think the law permits them, to demonstrate
sometimes
that kind of to speak the language of law of in a way that
the people can relate
understand.
Now, it is very interesting that the matter has gotten to where it is. I want you to compare how Aregbesola defeated, what's his name? Oyinlola. And how this has also happened. There seems to be a correlation. They had to cancel votes in the court.
Cancellation of votes.
Yes.
It's not a new thing. It didn't happen. It's not happening for the first time. But it's just that it's happening for the first, well, maybe not for the first time. It's happening again in the Southwest region. And I think that at this stage, it is a lot of wisdom for Governor Adeleke to call to order his supporters or whoever is protesting. Because if the other side too were to come out and protest, we're going to have violence. In any case, no amount of protest can change the decision of the judges. Even when they get to appeal, the judges will still have the final say. So they got themselves to this level. If there hadn't been overvoting, we won't be where we are. Probably the case would have been dismissed, you know. But like Femi Falana SAN said, I think that we need to have a review of our electoral system in such a way that all these issues are addressed before a governor is sworn in. Because if it gets to the Supreme Court now, and I understand that it could take about 4 months, then he would have been in office for about 7 months or thereabout, or 9. And then he's thrown out. And then
Oyetola was in the office for almost 3 years.
3.5 years.
3.5
Yeah.
years before, he almost served the full term.
Yes.
Before he was kicked out.
Yes.
But it's not right. Because what about the perquisites of office that he has enjoyed? Who will refund it?
You cannot.
He goes.
The poet Thoreau said, he said, you can't kill time. You can't kill time without injuring eternity. It's a very interesting development. When we accepted, or let's say the general people accepted that the votes that Adeleke had won, was it also part of the fact that INEC was on a roll before? Conducted elections in Bayelsa, conducted election in Anambra,
Yes.
and everything was in a row. So everybody thought everything has to be accepted just as it is.
Yes.
So what is the lesson now going forward for all of us on what just happened in Osun?
We need to be more watchful. We need to also be cautious. You know, we should adopt cautious optimism whenever results are announced. And this is not just it's for all stakeholders, the media, you know, the politicians themselves. You know, when Adeleke came, he was carrying out some policies as if, look, I've come to stay for 4 years. You know, so we need to be cautious. And also, even in celebrating in victory, you know, we need to be magnanimous. Because until it is affirmed by the by the Supreme Court,
Yes.
you are not sure what, you know, will happen.
Yeah.
And I think it's better these days because Segun only spent 3.5 years.
Yes.
You know, and then Oyetola spent 3.5 years. But now it has been amended, they can only have about 180 days.
Yes,
but I
they
think
resolve the issue,
like she said, we still need to make these issues pre-election matters. The other argument is that, like what happened in Ekiti State, when the Court of Appeal declared that Segun Oni rigged the election, came in at gunpoint, should that person still go back and contest election again? So there should be a kind of where if a particular candidate is found wanting for committing this kind of electoral crime, we should impose ban, maybe 10, 15 years, to serve as a deterrent. If Adeleke loses now, or he wins, whatever happens, he might go again and contest. And I think that would be wrong with all this kind of evidence we have seen. So crime is not just meaningful when it's committed by ordinary people. When big men commit crimes, there must be sanctions to ensure that next time, you know, they don't do it again.
Yes, going back to this certificate thing, are we leaving an important matter unaddressed by not really addressing the issue of the forgery?
Yes.
Because as we stand today, there are at least 1 or 2 people running today whose issues about certificate have not been addressed by the court, but they have been allowed to run. The issue might be waiting at the other end of the election. When we say, okay, they have been declared and they have celebrated, and all of these things have implications for money spent, for people mobilized, for hope raised, and even the integrity of the Constitution and the democratic process.
That's why I'm surprised that the judges just glossed over it.
Yes.
If Adeleke loses at the Supreme Court, anybody can go to court and bring up that forgery case. Because it's been established by judges that there was a case of forgery. And I do not think it is something that should be glossed over. We're sending bad signals to our society, to our youth, and I think that there should be a penalty for this. It should not be glossed over. I think the judges were just too fair.
Maybe they were saying that okay, we have this issue of beavers and the discrepancies in number. That's enough to get him. Well, like just like somebody who wants to beat a person up. When he gives him one blow, one uppercut, and is get ready for the second one, he says the person don't go down. Then there's no need to come out. But you need to give the other one so that we know that it's both faces they are out to get bruised.
I think they were silent on it, and they said because he had acquired a certificate from America that supersedes the secondary or whatever.
But forgery is forgery.
Forgery is forgery. Definitely. Forgery is forgery. Why present it? Why not just present the one you brought from America and then go clean?
So what is, I know Adeleke is going to appeal. On what basis do you think, why are there people protesting? Why do you think they are protesting? The PD people are protesting. And what do they have in mind?
Well, there are...
Because the judgment seems very clear to...
There are people who see office as the source of perks and privileges. So Adeleke not being sworn in. Some people are now special advisors who are commissioners and all that. They see, he's losing that power as a personal threat. It's not about the society that they are supposed to serve.
Not the issues.
Not the issue. So they are born to protest that, look, they are taking away their plate of food from them. So you and their supporters, of course, will be mobilized to protest. But, like you said, whether you have 1 million protests or not, will not change the facts, the scientific facts that have been presented on the table. So I think he has 21 days now to appeal. He will appeal for so many reasons. The lawyers who want to justify, the fact that, look, we can still win. And of course, for so many reasons, because it's all about also, getting paid for the job. So they need to convince him. He's not a lawyer. They will sit there and say, look, these are the things, and he will believe them. So they have to do their jobs. And of course, his supporters who live under the illusion of hope will say, look, we can win and all that. Let's do this, let's do that.
Get it back.
Let's get it back. So I expect him to pursue this case up to the Supreme Court.
Yes, the issue again is lawyers and elections. What can we do about lawyers who know that what they are doing is not advancing the cause of justice or democracy, but advancing only their pockets, and yet they still go ahead? What can we do about that? Is it a problem? It's a problem for society, but it's also a problem for the body of benchers and for the NBA.
No, I think they have to practice their profession. They have to earn their living. It's their own means of making a living, so they have to do that. Now, it is for the client to be convinced. If you accept the deceit they have presented to you, then you are ready to spend the money. Honestly, I don't see the lawyers' blame in all of this. Yes, they will want to tell him, yes, we can still try. Let's try. But even, a person who is just barely informed about law process knows that they cannot make a fresh plea. And once you cannot make a fresh plea, it's a bit difficult. But nothing is impossible, okay? But let's see how it works. But one ridiculous thing that I found that Governor Adeleke did was to write INEC to say, don't issue a certificate to Oyetola. I think he overstepped his bounds.
But why would the lawyer himself?
No, Adeleke wrote it.
For instance, does the lawyer not know that Adeleke forged certificate? Those are the kind of things that are so obvious.
They know, but you don't expect his lawyers to admit that. Their job is to do the best to set him free. They are not there to get him to be convicted.
They're not there for justice. They're there for judgment.
But for him to go and write a letter to INEC to say, don't issue a certificate to Oyetola, I think that's beyond his brief. and he was not properly briefed. Who is he to write INEC, who is an independent organization, to say don't? You are asking them to disobey judges, and that is wrong. He could write to INEC to say, I am appealing this, and that is by way of information, okay? And INEC will decide what he wants to do. But to say, don't issue a certificate to Oyetola, that is it ignorance or what? I don't want to use another word.
What do you think will happen now to the coalition of forces in Adeleke and the Gboyega forces in Osun, now that the situation is what it is?
Well, I think I heard that there has been some reconciliations, efforts to reconcile, purposely because they also have the LCM, the lowest common factors among them, which is the presidential election. And I understand they are making efforts to come together as a team. And I also think that even though the sky looks brighter for Oyetola, it will strengthen him if he reconciles, with the other group. And I also think to strengthen the Ademola group if they also reconcile, with Oyetola, because it will be for their own common good. If eventually the APC wins the presidential election, I think it will be to their own advantage. And I don't think there's anything they should look up to gaining. If Adeleke eventually, if they consider the interest of the people and the interest of the party, I think it's in their own interest that the party wins the election. Because it will be easier, even maybe after Oyetola's 8 years, for the party to return, rather than having, an interim government that, an ad hoc government that is not from their own party.
I remember when the election was about to take place, I wrote a column in which I was saying that that they should not vote for a person whose only credential is dancing. And then after they announced his victory, Adeleke's victory, there were a lot of people in social media who were asking me to apologize to the people of Osun State. I think they should apologize to me now.
I think they should apologize to you.
I think they should apologize for asking me to apologize.
Yes, after the presidential election, some people will have to apologize to you again.
I know, they will.
I think Wale is correct. It's in the interest of APC to close ranks. Ask a question. If the Gboyega group said Oyetola did not uphold their legacies, is Adeleke upholding his legacy now? No.
That's a fair point. It's not.
It's not.
It's not. It doesn't even show that he has any legacy so far yet to pursue. Anyway, now the issue now is this thing happened. This Beavers problem, this overvoting happened in just one isolated election. In 26 days, we are going to have a nationwide election. There are going to be many local governments, many wards, many 36 states and Abuja. We are going to have all of that. If this kind of problem arises,
it will likely happen.
We're going to resolve it. Because the way of a situation where somebody is declared winner, and then we discover that the Beavers has to correct itself and say, this is not actually the winner. It's going to be more contentious if that happens in the center. So the task for INEC is really great.
Exactly. So put his house in order and get his officials to be fair and neutral in this. Because that thing, the overvoting, it took place in the presence of party agents and possibly INEC officials.
Yes.
So I pray that the election of February 25 will be as peaceful as June 12, 1993. Remember, it's exactly 30 years.
Yeah.
Something is about to happen.
Okay.
I don't know.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Well, we say the only gentleman in the press. I don't know came with that kind of idea. It's very, very sexist, very phallocentric.
Maybe we should now say ladies of the press.
That again, we're going to the other extreme. I want to say gentlemen and ladies of the press. Thank you very much for elucidation of this topic. We hope that that our democracy will get better because of this. Thank you.